Welcome into this week at Gridiron Icon, and I am particularly extremely excited this week because I have someone that I recently met, is quickly becoming a friend, and is truly the definition of a Gridiron Icon. My friend and former Los Angeles Ram, Buffalo Bill, and Green Bay Packer. We only claim the Rams, though. Preston Dennard, how are you, my friend?
I am outstanding, doing well.
Oh, man, it's so good to see you again. I have to tell you, as Rams fans, and we have a lot of them watch the show, particularly that reach back, they're kind of in the news these days. They're world champions, people. We remember the first LA team that got us to the Super Bowl from those 70s and 80s teams, and that's what makes this guy so special. And might I add, as a lifelong Rams fan, my memorabilia game is lacking compared to what we are seeing behind you, oh wise one. Absolutely love it. Look at all those memories from your time with the Rams and beyond. So I want to thank you. We're going to do a part two. I have to confess to you, had a lot of Rams fans reach out to me, even those I don't know, online, on Twitter and YouTube, saying, oh my God, Preston, so good to see him. A great player, better man. This is awesome. Can we get more? Ooh. Preston said yes. So here we are, folks. We're going to do a part two to the Preston Dennard. We're going to call it the Preston Dennard Show, otherwise known as Gridiron Icon. I want to jump right in out of respect for your time because I've got so many great things to ask you and suggestions people have asked me looking back at your career, both as a football player and as we learned in the last time we were together, so many other interests you had. So I want to kind of maybe dig into that a little bit in this interview as well. But I want to start out with something because the Rams are in the news, and particularly the last 2 days, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, they secured the bag, so to speak. They're making money that's just unreal. And it got me to thinking, when I'm with Preston, I want to ask him something. How has this game changed, the NFL, since you played? I mean, aside from those ridiculous monetary figures, can you kind of take us back and tell us longtime fans how this game has changed, both on the field and off?
Well, we just can't get away from the monetary part. I mean, it's unreal. I mean, when I think of that and I think about my first contract and even my last contract, no way in the world could we have ever come close to the kind of money these folks are making. And good for them, God bless them. There are maybe a couple other areas that have truly changed. I think the way the players in the game treat each other, and we may have touched a little bit on that before, but just the way they are as professionals. And I can remember my days where, we played other teams and we were gentlemen in the game, even though we tried to take their heads off. We tried to beat them down, and we were very competitive. And but I know when the play was over, we'd reach down and grab them and pull them up, or just encourage the guys. Hey, come on, keep coming. I'm coming too. And I remember Lester Hayes for the Raiders. Lester would talk noise every play, and how he was going to do this and do that and do that. And he would just play aggressively crazy. But when the play was over, it was like we were buds going back to our own huddles. And he said he'll see me next play. And he probably said a couple other things too that put me up. But that's what the game was like. I think that's what's different. Now there's more of a hate intent. It's just the way I see the way they conduct themselves. And we are brothers in the cloth. When that game is over, and everybody can't play this game forever, and when that game is over, I would hope that we treated each other with respect, that after life in football, if our families cross or our sons cross or daughters or whatever, that there was a mutual respect among all the players and off the field. And we had that. I can remember my Monday Night Football shows that I would do and conduct at my restaurant in Cerritos. And I had the Raiders when they were in LA. I had some of the Raiders come down as well as the Rams. We got along. We had a great time. and we go on Sundays and compete against each other if we were scheduled to play.
Wow. Like literally during non-game times, they're hanging out in your restaurant?
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible, man.
We had a ball. We had a ball.
God, and so I got to ask you something, and I have not teed you up for this. On that note, as we move along through so many questions, Rams, Raiders, the city of Los Angeles, you guys treated each other, and you mentioned Lester Hayes, who I met, one of my favorite non-Ram players. I can't believe you bring him up by name. But how was that? Was this like was this West Side Story all over again in the NFL world, where with the Rams and the Raiders during that time period?
I don't know if it was that. I think maybe the fans maybe identified with that, but it was just another game, and we competed. And at that time, we were out of the Coliseum and in Anaheim, playing at Angel Stadium, and it was just another competitive game, and almost like going home, going back to the Coliseum to play them. And I can remember the games we had. They were great games, back and forth, scorings, catching, all that kind of stuff. So it was still the same makeup of a game and competition. So I don't think we added more to the flavor. It was the same for us, even though they were our neighbors way across town. And, we're in Orange County, they're in LA. And so we really didn't cross much, except for the restaurant and the Monday Night Football show that I conducted.
God, that is wild to think about a Ram player hosting a bunch of Raider guys in his restaurant. No fights broke out. I mean, the Raiders have that infamous reputation that everywhere they go there's a barroom brawl. But I'm hearing you say, look, there was mutual respect on these squads.
Yeah, I can remember Marcus Allen and just so many of the guys would come down, and we're still cordial to each other even after the game. And so when you're asking about what's different in the game, I think that's one of the things, the respect of each other and a greater passion. And I mean all the way across the board, not just in certain individuals. Certainly you probably had your favorite guys that you got along with better, but we could compete. And I think that was a neat thing that I learned coming out of college, because in college, the coaches used to keep you kind of tight knit. If you said anything, you weren't ready to play. If you're kind of a loose, you weren't really focused. I mean, at the professional level, it was like a job. If you got up 8 o'clock, went to work, you did your job, you went home. And that's the way we treated it. And it was just really, really neat that you can conduct yourself in such a very respected manner, competing as well as off the field.
God, I love that. I get accused a lot that I'm old school when I'm talking about come on, I'm like, what? Maybe it's the hair. But, I look back at those old teams and there did seem to be more camaraderie on the field with football back then. I mean, I even tell my own son and tell these younger guys, look, what these wide receivers are doing today is incredible. Cooper Kupp is incredible. Absolutely amazing. But help us understand, when you played this game in the 70s and the 80s and you went over the middle on a post or a dig or something, it's different than today. Am I correct on this? It's clear up this old school thing that I get accused of. You guys were getting hammered by some of these defensive backs. You mentioned the Raiders, Hayes, Atkinson, Tatum.
Yeah.
Those guys were scary, right?
Oh, yeah. That was my first game, as I think I shared in the first segment.
Yeah.
That was my first game when I started, and that was on my brain throughout the whole game. And I think as far as the rules were concerned and the play of the game, it was probably a lot rougher, but it doesn't take away the fierceness that these guys play with, because they're bigger.
Yeah.
They may be a little stronger, not so much faster, but they play with an intensity that's full speed, but I think out of control. They just fly around, they're out of control. That's why you see a lot of missed tackles, missed hits. You see something and, I'm sure fans have said, ooh, if you'd have got hit by that. But that's a huge mistake on that guy making the play, because he missed it, because it's just all straight intensity. And it's almost like they want to try to kill somebody today.
Yeah.
Even though it was rough back then, and, the clothesline and all of that, and just brutal stuff, there was still a respect about the game with these guys. And so, they still would pick you up. They'd knock you out, but they'd pick you up. Even before me, the Butkus and all those old school guys, Karras and so on, and the Fearsome Foursome. I mean, those guys were ruthless, but they played it with such a dignity that you could be proud of it.
Yeah, that's great. So it's not necessarily an old school, new school. Of course, I think about guys like you and John Jefferson, guys from that era. You guys were like deer, gazelle, so just nimble and graceful. And, today we're looking at Calvin Johnson, and I'm like, what? Wide receiver? You can see where people say the game has changed in some ways. It certainly has evolved somewhat. On that note, as somebody we like to lean into with each of our guests, we like to lean into them and find out a little bit about what makes them tick. And in your career, listen, you're forever number 88, a Ram. For this host. Sorry, folks. I'm going to show my bias. You were one of my favorite players. I'm very open about it. But you had some changes in your career. You went through some hard times. I mean, you ended up on the Buffalo Bills and the Green Bay Packers. Can you take us back as just the common guy on the couch to what it was like the worst day of your professional? Maybe it's not even one of those things, but what it was like to come out of something that was devastating to you, and then also what your stay was like moving on from Super Bowl Rams to the other teams.
Well, the way that happened is, John Robinson became the head coach in '83, and that was my last year with the Rams, and I had a really good year again that year. But John was looking for speed, and never once did he come to me in regards to my role. He was just looking to bring somebody in. And that happened to be Ron Brown, who came in the following year. And so he was about speed. But I've always wanted to ask him the question, Coach, if you would have come and asked me, I could have come off the bench, been that third and fourth down guy, like the nickel guy, and continued the drive and made the clutch catch and all of that. And I could have ended my career with the Rams. But he tried to trade me. And I think what had happened is it was the end of my contract, and they were renegotiating with me. And so I didn't agree with some things in principle. And they tried to trade me to the Cowboys for a clean swap with who was it?
I think you told us it was Butch Johnson. Yeah,
Butch Johnson.
Crazy.
And so it was pretty much done, and the news media found out, all out in front of my house, news media, lights at night and all that. And I didn't know this till I turned on the TV and saw that the Rams were trying to trade me to the Cowboys. I didn't believe that was going to happen. I thought the Cowboys would send me on to St. Louis. And so I hadn't signed the contract yet. They were waiting on me to sign it. Well, I didn't like some things in the contract. So I believe they just got a little frustrated and upset. And I guess at that time they thought Buffalo was the armpit of the NFL, and that's what they would do to a lot of guys. I remember, I think Harold Jackson went there, Ron Jesse went there. They shipped them, all these guys, over to Buffalo, and I got, as soon as I signed my contract, they shipped me right off to Buffalo.
Wow.
I embraced it as another opportunity, and of course, a chance to stay in the NFL. And when I got to Buffalo, I was the elder statesman. I was the veteran receiver. The rest were young guys. Byron Franklin was the other starter. And the reason I went to Buffalo, and the reason for that need, was Jerry Butler, their star receiver from Clemson, was injured. He had a knee, and he was injured. And so I came in there. But fortunate enough for me, I ended up having the best year of my NFL career that year. And it was a blessing to go to Buffalo, and really a blessing to go to Green Bay. But that's what happened. And, I can't fault that. I can't be upset with the move. I just thank God it was a part of my legacy in NFL to play with three really pristine franchises, because, Buffalo's old school, Green Bay originator, and then the Rams, the classic. That's what my career was. So I was very proud of that.
Man, it's incredible. What an amazing experience. I mean, I'm trying to think of what it's like as a guy and by at that time you're still in your late 20s, right?
Yeah.
During
Oh, yeah.
this going on, and you're getting sent from the sunny beaches of Los Angeles, California to Buffalo. I've actually caught a game in Buffalo in person. That's not the same as Los Angeles.
No, not at all.
How did you, and then of course Green Bay,
Yeah.
which is a whole nother, they are absolutely iconic. But even to this day, Green Bay has trouble getting free agents just based on there's no real nightlife, there's no beaches,
Yeah.
for a young guy. Was that the toughest time in your professional career, or was there another moment that was just really tough on you mentally and emotionally, or was that it?
I think the toughest might have been when I realized my career was over. But
Ooh.
it wasn't devastating like it could be to some guys. I knew I had a future after football. I knew that I was going to go into broadcasting. Wasn't sure about coaching, though I did have the opportunity. But I had the opportunity to do other things. But the realization that the game was over and you couldn't play it anymore, for a little bit there, it was really challenging because I wanted to get up and go to practice. I wanted to get up and get dressed for the game. I wanted to compete more, and I had to find something to replace that. So, a lot of recreational basketball at Huntington Beach Rec Center, and every day it was fun.
I love it, man. I've actually been there
Oh, yeah. What a
in that area.
old school gym.
God, I love it. So, we hear about that with athletes. And I mean, gosh, when that happens, you're still a young man, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're just a young man. And it's like somebody's telling you, we're going to move on. You can't do this anymore. Any advice for anybody facing that? Most of us don't make it to the NFL or a pro sports career, but how did you navigate that personally, aside from just staying active? Was there any secret to what you did there?
Yes. What I tell young athletes, and I work with a lot of college athletes as well. I mentor a lot of them from different colleges, as a matter of fact. And one of the things I always tell them is the game is short lived. Put everything you got into it, invest the best you have into it, because one day you're going to have to walk away. And if you walk away, I hope the investment you made prior to getting into the game, if you are fortunate enough to make it to the NFL, I hope that you got your degree. I hope that you invested in some thought of what you might want to do. And when you get into the game, develop something that you love as an opportunity when you leave the game, because you won't have the opportunity to really take time. I mean, if you make enough money with some of these guys, I mean, you could take time and kind of see where you want to go. But my thing is, there's life after football. Football is not everything. It is something, and it's a big something, but it's how if somebody's not happy and satisfied with their career because they left something undone, I can't say that. I invested 100% in everything I did in the game. I enjoyed it to the tilt, and I made it a personal, it was like making an album. It was just music to my soul to be out there running routes, doing all that. But I knew I could do other things outside of the game, and that's what I pursued immediately.
God, I want to get into that because I think that's such an important message for today's athlete, for any generation's athlete. But today, there seems to be such emphasis on being famous, being out in the spotlight, and then someday that runs out. And I think that we're seeing that with some of the stuff in athletics today. But before we walk into how you've been successful post-football career, we're gonna do what I always do to you, Preston, which is ask you the cheesy football fan questions.
Okay, all right.
But I'll tell you what, look at that wall of memories behind you. I mean, what a journey you've had, both as an athlete and then as we'll get into post-career. But I want to ask you some of the stuff that I think all fans want to know. First and foremost, you kind of alluded to it, but how did you like playing in Buffalo and then Green Bay? What was the experience like for you?
Well, Buffalo and Green Bay was a wonderful experience.
Wow.
And the fans there are not like LA fans. As you know, there's so many sports teams there. Boy, if they get frustrated with you, they turn to the next sport or they go to the next team and so on. They got SC, UCLA, they got the Fullertons, they got all kind of sports entities that they can turn to. But when you go to Buffalo and Green Bay, that's their team. It's a totally different dynamic. An example of that is when I was traded, went to training camp, I bought a house in Buffalo. And when I went to pick up my family at the time, coming in from always staying away from training camp. And so when I got them from the airport, drove back, looked on the porch, the patio, and there happened to be all this stuff out there. And I went and looked, and there was these checkerboard napkins, the old picnic basket kind of deal. The neighborhood brought all kind of food, welcoming me. Oh, yeah. Wow. First time I seen wings and potato salad, cornbread, chicken wings, you name it, all kind of pies and desserts. They were all there. And the funny thing about it, this was the end of October, 1st of September. I never knew who did it until I found out about one person that donated something October 31st when I took my kids around for Halloween. And a mom said, hey, how did you like the peach pie? And I said, did you make that? Oh, we loved it. But that was the first time. And those people were just warm, even though it's a cold environment. Green Bay, the same way. One neat story, and I don't know if I told this about playing the Bears and it was snowing. Did I tell that one before?
I don't think so. No, and by the way, it doesn't matter. Let's hear it again.
Okay, it's a neat story. So we're getting ready to play the Bears, and it's a winter night. And in Green Bay, Forrest Gregg let everybody stay at home. And he expected us to be gentlemen and to take care of biz and prepare ourselves for the game the next day. So we're playing the Bears, and of course it's 85, and we want to beat those Bears. And so wake up the next morning, get ready, have breakfast, get ready to open the garage door, and I can't do it. And I get it up, and all the snow falls in. Snow was about waist high. Oh. And I was driving a Jeep. There's no way I can back out of that. I go back inside, call the Packers administration, tell the coaches, hey, I can't get out. I need somebody to come get me or something. So they're working on that. In the meantime, I go back out to the Jeep just to marvel at all this snow, and all the neighbors in the neighborhood, they came out with their snow blowers, shovels, and just everything related to digging a path out for me. And I live 4 houses from the corner, and they dug a path all the way to the corner, which was a highway, in order to go to the stadium. I never seen that. And the last thing they said, go beat those damn Bears.
I got to tell you, man, that is an awesome story.
It's awesome.
I mean, we hear Packer fans, I mean, they're legendary. They own the team, and trying to get a ticket there is, you wait lifetimes. It's generational. But that's like the first real world story I've heard. They literally knew they had a player on the block, and they're down there digging you out so you can go catch the ball.
Oh, yeah. I would be outside playing catch with some of the guys. And I had a couple of the young ladies that were babysitters with my older boys who were little at the time. So it was a really nice, close-knit neighborhood. And, they didn't barrage or, it was just really respectful. And I just opened myself up to them because I like the human aspect of it.
Yeah.
There's another side of fans that is just crazy, and we can talk about that. But I really enjoyed Buffalo and Green Bay just as much as I had fun in LA.
God, that's great to hear. We didn't touch on that last time. We haven't talked about that privately when we're visiting that. Those are some neat stories and great communities of people. Yeah. And it's different from Los Angeles, which is Hollywood and flash and huge population and sunshine. You go to these little communities. God, I love that story. That's incredible. You hear, you often think those are urban myths about Packer fans, but
right.
Here we go. You lived it, man. I love that. Okay, so staying just in the playing career for a few more minutes here. Mm-hmm. What was the toughest team you had to compete against as a pro on any of the teams?
Probably the toughest.
Yeah, late 70s, early 80s, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
right in there.
might have been San Francisco,
Yeah.
because that was like a rivalry.
Yeah, I hate them.
That was brutal. That was brutal. That was probably it, because we were both capable of beating each other. It didn't matter if it was a home or an away game. We would beat them at their stadium. They would come and every now and then beat us in ours. It'd just be back and forth. But it was a battle. And of course, having Ronnie Lott and Eric Wright and all those guys, and we had the same caliber of athletes too. It was always a battle. And then of course they had Joe Montana. And, we did classic games to be in. So I think they might have been the tough that you had to work extra hard for.
God, that's a good. I was actually I'm going to be honest. I was afraid you were going to say that because as a Rams fan, you just hate everything about the San Francisco 49ers. And they were so good. I don't think the young guys or young fans realized how big that rivalry was in the NFC West.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rams won it for like 7-8 years in a row when you went to the Super Bowl, and then the Niners came on the scene with Montana, and it was a bloodbath, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
God, those were great games. Was there a DB, you mentioned Lott comes to mind, but was there a DB that you played against that was just, you knew you had to eat your Wheaties that morning? I mean, I'm thinking Mike Haynes and Lester Hayes. You mentioned Benny Barnes to me, which
I did.
was interesting from the Cowboys. Mel Blount, Hall of Fame, but
is
there anybody that just, God, I'm gonna have to eat my Wheaties this morning because this game's gonna be a bloodbath.
Okay, so I'm gonna let a secret out.
Oh,
and the secret is you never allow yourself to be defeated before you compete. So we were equal competitors with everybody on the field, and I'm a pro, you're a pro. And whether I had a whole bunch of respect and a little bit of fear, I wasn't going to show it because we're professionals. And so I competed. Now, if the question was, who was the toughest DB you went against? I would say Mel Blount was pretty tough because he was huge.
Big.
6'3" DB or something. And Mike Haynes was very gifted. Though both of them, I could win every now and then. And I had one route I could always beat Mike Haynes on. I don't know why, but I always could beat him. And I did it in college and I did it in the pros. And then
I love this.
Well, it happened to be the 7 route, the corner route. And it's Leroy Irvin's favorite route that I run. And I perfected it. And I think those were the two. Now, there was some true fear whenever you played the Raiders because they were just ruthless. And I never got hit by the assassin, Jack Tatum. Mm-hmm. But I come close to getting that clothesline from him. Ooh. And I think I'd probably be putting my head on for the show to talk to you if that did.
Yeah.
But George Atkinson was there. They had Monty Jackson. They had Mike Davis. And then Mike Haynes was there. And, of course, Lester Hayes. And that's a hell of a secondary.
Oh, man.
But it was my first game that I started in the NFL in the Coliseum. But I had to go out and compete. I had to be a professional. I had to not show the fear. And I thought the fear that I had was more of a great respect of them. And that's how I competed. I used that fear to the best of my ability to go out and compete.
God, I just love the look inside the mind of an athlete. It's incredible. I mean, there's no question there's got to be respect. You guys are the best players on earth. There's only a couple hundred that get there every Sunday. It's just amazing. But those are the names. Those are the names I fully expected to hear. You already mentioned Ronnie Lott. Of course, I'm a Lester Hayes fan, but my God, what a list of defensive backs you played with. Was there a receiver or somebody in the league? We talked about this a little bit the first time that we got together, and I got a lot of compliments, I have to tell you, on your overview of how you kind of mentored the young guys on those Rams teams.
Oh, okay.
The Henry Ellerts and the some of the Flipper Anderson guys coming later and all that kind of stuff. But was there a receiver that you played against or maybe you're close with to this day? We'd love to hear who you're still close with. from those
Every
teams?
one of them, almost all of them.
Really? Wow.
Unfortunately, Drew Hill is no longer alive with us, and we've stayed great friends. Andre Reed from Buffalo,
Wow.
great friends. Jerry Butler, who was at Buffalo. James Lofton and I are dear friends, and
Oh,
I see
wow.
him every now and then. Most of the time, you see these guys in celebrity golf tournaments, and of course with the Rams, Henry Ellard. I call him all the time. I run a golf tournament. Well, I'm part of the ALS New Mexico Foundation board, and we have a segment where we have a few celebrity athletes that come in. So I reach out to Henry Ellard, just all the guys. I talk to George Farmer sometime.
Oh,
He's still
George
in
Foreman.
LA. Just a lot of those guys. There's some I'm not in touch with, but not just the receivers. A lot of the guys. And Vince Ferragamo, of course, we talk almost monthly. So,
Oh, my God. Oh, wow.
oh yeah,
Really?
yeah. So all the guys that I played with, I still have great relationships with them, and still see them and love to see them. Now, there is a special relationship that I have that I think you're going to love.
Oh, boy. Here we go. He's going to blow my mind.
Oh, I'm going to blow your mind because
Okay. All us old time Rams fans are loving every second of this, man. We just laugh this stuff up.
I love this guy because I did a commercial with him doing I can't remember what Super Bowl was going on, but we did a commercial, and even when I went to the Super Bowl, we did a little something together in LA, and he runs a golf tournament in Vegas now. And 2 years ago, I went to his golf tournament. He called me out of the blue and said, "Preston, I want you to be there." He's always been a huge fan. I did not realize it. And I don't know if he thinks we're similar in style, but I love this guy today. He's going to come to my tournament next year. And that is Freddie Blitnikoff. And we're dear friends. I've got him in my phone. I can call him anytime. Matter of fact,
Wow.
last week earlier this week, he texted me and said, "Hey, we're moving our golf tournament so you can come and play, because our tournaments this year were on the same date."
Wow.
And that's a special relationship. And I sent him a photo of he and I back in the day, him with his long hair, and he looks good today. He's doing really well. And I brought him the photo when I went and played. He just loved it. And his wife, Angela, what a wonderful lady. And she helped coordinate that. And man, I went out there and I just embraced him. We hugged, had a great time. So he is my favorite wide receiver. Now,
Wow.
Ron Jesse was first because he took me under his wings when I got to LA. And bless his heart, he's no longer with us. But Jesse was very dear to me as one of the former receivers.
Oh, I remember Ron Jesse for sure as a kid.
Yeah.
Wonderful guy. Wonderful guy. Fred Bolitnikoff. Hopefully when he hugged you, he didn't have stickum all over himself. It's incredible. Lester gets all the credit for that because he bathed in it. But
Sure.
I don't think a lot of fans know, and you could confirm this, that Bolitnikoff's the guy who introduced that to Lester Hayes.
Oh, yeah. He had it all over here.
Had all over it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
God, that's so great. I got to tell you, man, I'm blown away at all the connection with ex-Raiders. It's very interesting. Maybe you should have been a silver and black guy at some point.
Speaking of, when we played the Raiders in the Coliseum, we were in Anaheim, and we're doing warm-ups. And Wendell Tyler was with the 49ers at the time, and before that he was trying to get to the Raiders. And I don't know if a lot of people know that, but anyway.
Wow, no.
So we're warming up. Both teams are stretching. We're on this side of the field. They're on their side of the field. Coaches are in the middle. And Al Davis walks by. And I told Al, I said, "Al, if I'm never a Ram again, I'd love to be a Raider." And he laughed. He said, "Well, we'll see if we can work on that." I knew he wasn't serious, but we did have that little jostle at that time. And man, that would have been fun. And playing with Ray, because Rod Martin's a good friend. I know Rod very well.
Wow.
I know a lot of those guys. So, and that's what the game was like then. You walked away with all these relationships from so many people from all over the game because we admired each other. When I was in LA, we were at the Coliseum early in my career. I'm standing on the sideline. I'm watching O.J. Simpson run a sweep for the 49ers. Never seen a head so big in a helmet, but he was
Really?
the
Really?
biggest
He's got a big noggin, huh?
helmet. It's the biggest helmet I ever seen on a man.
Interesting.
Oh my gosh. But he just looks so sweet. And I'm just mesmerized watching him run up and down the sideline. But those were the great times because you could respect those guys off the field.
Yeah, I got to tell you that for fans, that's what the show's all about. The gridiron icons of yesterday, and yesterday could be 5 minutes ago on this show, but that was such a special era for the league. And the league actually, went through some rough years, and then that era you played in kind of brought it to where it is today.
Yeah,
especially in those 80s. It was a big change. So before we leave football, one last thing, and then I want to talk about something maybe that's a little more serious. I want to get your take on it. But best quarterback you ever played with. And that's probably, can we do that? Because if they hear the show, I don't want anybody mad at you, but you played with some good ones. Ferragamo, number 15, hung in my Sports Illustrated poster above my bed. Vince, if you're listening, I'm sorry, man. It's a man crush. I had you on the wall. It's just the facts. But who was the best quarterback you ever played with, if you can even tell us?
Okay, so this is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
A big thing for me because I don't think there's a best quarterback that ever played the game.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom Brady may be what they go, Joe Montana was, how can you, the Vince Ferragamo, the Terry Bradshaws, one of the best ones that never really made it to the big game, Dan Marino, how can you say so-and-so is the best quarterback to ever play this game? Because you can't take Joe Namath out of that. You can't take really Roger Staubach out of that.
No.
You can't even, there's so many of these guys. And so my thing is the quarterbacks I played with, this is how I categorize them. So the most fun, just like my brother, night and day, was Vinny.
Oh, I love it.
He just knew me. We practice well together. We're buds. We call each other all the time, even today. And we reminisce, but we both started the same time. And we just clicked relationship-wise and all that. He could throw the ball. And he was that gunslinger, the Italian stallion.
Yeah.
And so he was the most fun. The best pro quarterback, just sharp as a tack, was little Joe Ferguson at Buffalo.
Man.
That is a pro's pro because he's smart, he's respectful.
Wow.
And he also, I can remember this, my only year and in 84 going to Buffalo, and he was a quarterback. And what happened was we're playing, I think, Washington. They blitzed, and there's a rule for the receiver if you don't have a different play on where you do a side adjustment and you break it off. Well, I'm not one to cheat the route. I'm going the full depth and I'm cutting it off. Joe must have been used to guys just cutting it off. And I'm trying to get the first down or get the depth. And so I guess Joe threw the ball and it hit the ground, whatever. He got sacked. I don't know what happened, but I ran the route. I did the right thing. I come back to the huddle and Joe is, hey, you got to break that thing off. You got to do that. I said, I did, Joe. He says, no, you didn't. I'm standing there and I got sacked. And I said, I did. You'll see it on the film. This is in the huddle, the next play. And Joe
love it.
So Joe says, okay, if I'm wrong, I'm going to stand up in front of everybody and I'm going to apologize. But you need to cut that thing off. I didn't say anything to him. We go on and play. Later, he throws me a touchdown. And we go in on Monday. We're watching the film. And I do exactly what he said he didn't see me do. Ooh. He stood up and he apologized in front of the whole team. And we became really, really good. But he is sharp. He can anticipate. He can put you in a place where you can be successful. So I had the most fun with him. Next to that might have been Jim Zorn that I played with in Green Bay.
Wow.
And that was a different ball because
Yeah.
it spiraled totally different.
He's a lefty, right?
Oh, yeah. He was
Jim Zorn's a lefty. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was good because Jim would always be in the huddle and he would like encourage you to do something on the route or whatever. And I'm going to bring it to you this way. And he would do it. And so he was a lot of fun. So we were very creative that way. But the most fun was Vinny. Vinny would be in the huddle and coach would call a play and he'll go, Preston, I want you to, when you break inside, I just want you to, and then and I'm gonna throw it to you. And it was so much fun. He was just a gamer and he would just do that. So that's how I categorized them. And we played against the Marinos and the Montanans and all that. Those guys were great. But I don't think there's any one best quarterback. It's a blessing and an amazement that Tom Brady has had the career he's had, and he's darn good. But he came up from what was he, a fifth rounder or something like that?
Yeah, he was a late round draft pick.
And then he got a chance to start. Tony Eason wasn't a slouch. He just got injured, and that gave Brady the opportunity. But Brady had a great, stable scenario. He had a team that was really ran well. He had coaches that were there. Never went anywhere. He had people that he could be developed under and grow. And he was just a big enough talent with the right arm and a smart guy in how he would throw the ball and place it. Does that make him the best quarterback to ever play the game? I don't think anybody could really say that because the eras are different. If you match them, for example, here's a point blank answer. All these guys that are catching these thousands of balls in a season, you throw that many balls to me, I'll catch them.
Yeah. Yes.
Will I be the best receiver that ever played a game? No, it's the opportunities that are presented at the time that you're playing. And we ran the ball a lot more. But when it was clutch to catch the ball and keep the drive going or a first down or catch the defense off guard and score a touchdown, that's what was called for back then. And the game started to change. And you look at the offenses. Now you got more receivers on the field rather than two wideouts and a tight end and two running backs. So the schemes are different. And if you put those guys in this same scheme, they could be successful. If you put them back in our era, they'll be limited, but they can still be successful.
Right.
The one-handed catches today, you didn't ask this question, but I'm going there.
Oh,
These daggone one-handed catches, they're nothing to marvel at.
No.
You give me those stick-'em gloves, I'll catch the heck out of a one-handed catch all day long. But try to do that with your bare hands. It can be done, but it takes great concentration. So to say that these receivers are greater today, put them in the environment we were in and see how much successful they are. So that's not to lighten the subject. That's not to ridicule or take away their great accomplishments. That's just to wake us up to the reality of the environment and the timetable of when these guys were playing the game.
God, you said it, I didn't, and I couldn't agree more. How you can compare guys from different eras, different schemes, different offensive lines, different coaching staff. It just doesn't work, folks. I stay out of that GOAT argument and just say greatness. By the way, you're selling yourself short because I think I sprained my arm at least twice trying to do the Preston Dennard Monday Night Football layout in my room and smashed myself on the bunk bed a couple times. You are the king of laying out for passes in my lifetime.
You want to know the secret?
Of course.
I had to dive for the ball because I couldn't run that thing down.
You didn't have the 4.2 speed, so you had to make up for it.
There you go.
Yeah. And of course, you told us in our last interview that your love of baseball. Now, I went back, full confession, was watching some of your clips again the other night, and I thought, I see a little baseball in him now. When he's laying out for that thing, I see a little bit more of his other sports than I did before. Now that I know.
Baseball. I love some baseball.
I love it, man. Well, I got 101 more questions about your playing career, but I want to get your take as a former pro and a successful dad and a successful businessman on something, I don't know, some people still think is serious. Would you, or did you, I think is the the right way to ask this. We're teasing here, folks.
Mhm.
Would you or did you let your sons play the game of football, even as it evolved and became even more violent, so to speak?
Yeah, so here's the deal. I have a son currently playing college football right now, but he's a specialist. He kicks, punts, and holds. And I have a 15-year-old hadn't decided what he wants to do. But my three older boys, and every one of them, this is a conversation I had when they were younger, and they all played youth football, probably about the same time I started in the 8th grade. And I told them, I said, look, if you ever want to play this game, they were playing baseball and soccer and all this other stuff. But I told them, I said, if you ever want to play this game, you let me know. I don't demand that you play it. I'm not asking you to play football. I'm not even asking you to follow in my footsteps. But if you do, you need to give me a year before you get out there and go play ball, because I need to prepare you mentally, emotionally, and physically, because that's a dangerous sport. And if you don't do it right, you could seriously get hurt. And, I had boys that played on the defense as well as on the offense.
Wow.
And they had to understand the mechanics and tackling and all of that. And I taught my boys. Well, the fortunate thing was I was my boys' coach for almost everything they did. I was their soccer coach, their baseball coach. I was their football coach.
Wow.
Track coach. And I coached all my boys, because I have this thing about youth coaches who want to emulate what they see on Sundays and Saturdays and all of that. And it's just the wrong approach. You have to be able to be a fundamentalist and to develop yourself as a coach. Because if you're going to do this thing, you need to understand how to do it. You just don't go out on a Saturday and yell at kids and draw up plays and this and that. You need to give common sense to what you're doing out there. So that's what I did with my boys. And if they did that, then they went out and played. I knew they were ready and they were prepared. And they played as long as they wanted to. So my oldest did that, played at Arizona State, played for the Chargers. My other two boys played through high school, but they didn't go on and play in college, though they could have. My fourth son is now playing at Ottawa University, and he played high school ball here. And my fifth son, I got 5 boys. My fifth son, I'm waiting to see what he's going to do. So, and he's probably my most talented one.
Isn't that crazy? In my family too, same thing. Our youngest, he happens to be my nephew, most talented athlete. We all hate his guts because of it, because it just comes so natural for him, while the rest of us were constantly trying to overachieve. He just like rolls out of bed and he's great. It's like, so great. So you let your boys play, but you came at it strategically.
Yes.
Now you've been very successful in business and other hobbies in life, but did you ever think about coaching? I mean, pro level, college? I know you've done a little bit.
I did. I've coached every level except for the pros. And
wow.
I coached at Cal State Fullerton.
That's right.
And I coached running backs, as a matter of fact. But I did coach the best back in the country those years, 89 and 90. And that was Mike Pringle. He was a leading rusher in the nation.
You coached Mike Pringle?
I coached Mike Pringle. And let me tell you, what a back. That is a guy you never had to ask him to do something. I never had to tell him to do something. He worked so daggone hard, and he was 100%. When he ran a running play in practice, we have to wait for him to come back because he's sprinting all the way to the end zone. It was a habit of his. He's running over you. He's got speed. And so I thought I was going there when Murph hired me. I thought I was going to coach the receivers. Found out he was giving me the running backs, my first college coaching job. So I ended up calling Wendell Tyler, Cullen Bryant, Eric Dixon, all these guys that, hey, give me some running back drills. I don't know what I'm doing here. And
I love it.
That's how I survived. And so I coached at Cal State Fullerton 2 years, and then I coached at University of New Mexico a couple, and then the head coach got fired. And the new coach that came in didn't retain me, though everybody wanted me to stay. That was my last coaching job because I made a decision. I wasn't going to go traveling all over the place seeking to coach college ball. So I stayed right here in Albuquerque, and every Saturday I had 20 to 25 kids, and that's what I coached.
Wow.
Just if you came from, it didn't matter what high school you came from, if you showed up, Coach Dennard was going to coach you. And it was technically 7-on-7, but I had DBs, linebackers, receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, and I would stop a play or I'd stop the process and say, okay, let me coach you guys up. And I coach them up. That was my coaching after that. But I've coached youth. I've coached high school, college. Loved it. Could I have coached in the pros? Yeah, I could have coached in the pros. It probably would have been neat. I got some good friends that did that. Pat Thomas, Rob Perry, Nolan Cromwell, all of them. Nolan, one of my favorite athletes. And so I could have.
He's
but
right there.
There were so many other things. Yeah, there were so many other things that I could do that I didn't want to waste my time chasing jobs like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I invested my time in.
God, I tell you, yeah. And you're being, of course, humble, which every guest does for the most part. I know how active you've been, not only just in the coaching ranks, but in raising and creating awareness for young people, charitable work, all that good stuff. This is exactly the kind of content I want to push out there, because we hear a lot about some of the tough stuff athletes do, or the bad decisions, or sometimes deadly stuff that they get involved in. Folks, there's way more people like the Preston Dennards and a bunch of names you just reel off. They're doing really good stuff in their community. It's time we got to drown out the other stuff and do a little bit of that. So let me ask you, when you look back at football, because I'm going to ask you what you've been doing since, and we're going to tease some other stuff, but would you do all of this over again? Going back to our first interview, the baseball, there was even some basketball and all of this stuff. Is there anything you look back on and go, I would have taken a left instead of a right, or I would have done something different? What have you had time to reflect on that?
Oh yeah. I know the answer very easily. I'd have took a hard left and played baseball if it had worked out.
Wow.
I went to college to play baseball, and it's one of my talks, invest in yourself. One of the telltale signs in my athletic career and academic career, when I really brought them both full circle, was after the first semester of my freshman year in 1974 here at the University of New Mexico. After the third varsity game, at that time, the NCAA, up until then, the NCAA did not allow freshmen to play on the varsity. When I was a freshman, that was the first year the NCAA allowed freshmen to play on the varsity. I was on the freshman team. We hadn't played a game yet, but after the third game, or it was the third game of the season, they brought me up that week to start right off the bat. Gene Huey, my beloved friend, who was my coach then, who's still my friend today, had them bring me up, and he moved me in as a starter. And the senior receiver, they moved him to punter. He was a punter too. He just punted full time, and I became the starter. I made all conference, the first freshman to ever do that in the WAC conference that year. And we also had John Jefferson, who I didn't outplay, but I got the honor. I thought we should have shared it because he was wild at Arizona State.
He's a player.
So yeah, he's a player and a good friend too. But I ended up making all conference, first freshman to do it. I'm at home that winter break, and I see on the ticker tape on the TV the announcement of the All Western Athletic Conference team. I remember Willie Miller played at Colorado State. I saw his name as a receiver. I said, when I saw that, I said, I wish I could do that one day. And they had somebody else. I don't know where he was from. Not John Jefferson, somebody else. And then I saw, and the first freshman to ever make All Western Athletic Conference, and it was me. And I went, oh my God.
You got the news watching it on TV?
I got the news watching it on TV. My family was there, my mom, dad, sister, brother, siblings, and all that. And they all jumped on me. We cheered and all that. 3 days later, I get my grades from my first semester in college.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
I sense a challenge coming.
I don't know how to say it, but I got a 0.6 GPA my first semester in college. And oh my gosh. So, you know what happened there? I go on probation, almost about to lose my scholarship. I need a 3.65 GPA to be eligible, above a 3.65 the second semester. Coaches tried to get my folks to pay $75 to go buy grades in California from whatever coach. Yeah, all that stuff was going on. And the big chicken I was, my dad, big pop-eyed forearms, military guy. I wasn't going to cross him. I said, no, I'll just go to school. What do I need to do? Well, you got to go to school all second semester. You can't do anything, and you can't play baseball. I was able to go to play baseball. And I was on my way back after that winter break to start baseball practice. And so this is where life-changing scenarios happen. Wow. So second semester, everybody's partying, having a great time, going to spring ball, playing baseball, doing all that. I'm in class from 7 in the morning till 9 at night, almost every day of the week. Didn't have a life, but I got a 3.675 to be eligible because, and then, football was back in play my sophomore year. How great that was, because I became an All-American and led the nation my sophomore year. Football stuck. I became a team captain. I had to leave baseball. And baseball gave up the scholarship. Football took it over, and that's what happened with me.
My God. I mean, left or right. You're at a crossroads. You're a whopping, 19 maybe?
Yeah.
You're just a baby. I mean, first, the Arizona Cardinals are on line one. They want you to stay away from Kyler Murray right now. Go play baseball, Kyler. No. But we literally could be talking to Preston Dennard, the Major League Baseball player, instead of NFL. And it all came down to just one semester of school changing your life.
And the first twist was when I was a senior in high school. And it was time where we had the Chicago White Sox, San Diego Padres, and the California Angels. Those scouts were in my living room when I got home from baseball practice as a senior in high school, and my dad was there entertaining them. He likes to barbecue. And so this is the first twist. They wanted to draft me out of high school, and talking to my dad and all of that. And my dad did this. He stood up. He said, gentlemen, if you want my son, you got to wait 4 years because he's going to college. That was a full twist. So going to college, figured I was going to try to play baseball there at college. But now you know the story.
God, man, I can't love that enough. What do we do without good parents? I mean, just a little push here and there. And of course, you have 5 boys, right? So
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable, man. So you do it over, but you might take a left-hand turn and toss around that small ball versus catching it.
I would definitely turn.
Isn't that something, man? That's really a lesson for anybody listening.
Yeah.
They didn't have it back then, right? The 2-sport athlete, the Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson stuff, where they got it just didn't happen. In your generation. Right. That's amazing, man. There's something, but before I get into what you're doing now, if you don't mind, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but I think an incredible summary of your career is something you've shared with me personally, which is a letter, not from John Robinson. I think we've picked up on that in this show, but from another Hall of Fame coach, Tom Landry, who played against you for the Dallas Cowboys. He gave you this letter. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Preston's letter from Tom Landry. Would I be putting you out if I asked you to just read what Tom Landry sent to you?
No. I would love it.
I think it'd be great for people to hear this, man.
Oh, yeah. So how this came about was when I finished my career and retired, I sent 50 letters out to everybody that I thought was instrumental in me having a successful NFL career, from you name it. I mean, opposing coaches, my own coaches, college coaches, and everything. I got a few calls. And I've got a postcard from my special teams coach, my rookie year with the Rams, Paul Lanham. He was in Detroit at the time. And a lot of people I didn't hear from that I would hope. And just good well wishes. But only one person wrote me a letter, and it was Tom Landry. And so I'll read it.
Please. This is so amazing.
Anything, I'm going to put the old man glasses
on. Oh, yeah. No, mine are right here to my left. No harm.
Okay. So it said, this is December 1st, 1986. Dear Preston, just a note to let you know how much I appreciated your regards and your expression of appreciation for my encouragement and support throughout your career. You were definitely a fine receiver, and we always enjoyed the opportunity to compete with the Rams and with you. I do want to take this opportunity to wish you success in your business career. I know you will put the same amount of time and effort into your business career as you did in becoming an outstanding professional football player. Sincerely, Tom Landry. Who cares about the Hall of Fame? Nobody has this. No, and you know what? My golf tournaments that I bring these celebrity athletes, I've had Tony Dorsett, Robert Newhouse, Michael Downs. I've had all these guys come to my tournaments, and when they come to my house and see this on the wall, they go, "How did you get this? We don't have this." And this is it's the only thing blue and silver on my wall, let me tell you.
Yeah, you listen, folks. If you didn't watch Preston play back in those days, yeah, I'm pouring it on thick, but so what? It's my show. This man had really good games against the Dallas Cowboys, oddly enough, and I think it's really interesting that. Are you kidding me? Cowboy players are like, I don't even have that, and I played for him.
Oh yeah,
that is awesome.
What's really neat though, what aided that is when I played, and maybe there's some old films that might depict this. Whenever we played the Cowboys, I really admired that man. He was just so awesome. And so what I would do is you know how when the game ends, all the players and the teams come in the middle and shake hands? I went past everybody, went to Coach Landry and shook his hand and just told him how proud I was to play against his teams. And I always had great games against Cowboys. And he was just great motivation. And that's how it started. I know that's what he captured when he wrote this letter, remembering those times.
And for you youngsters, you young whippersnappers out there listening, that little nugget he just shared with you right there is important in life. Because he remembered the respectful player that came and shook his hand and also just happened to burn a couple of his corners throughout the game. There's such a lesson in that. So tell us, what is Preston Dennard doing now as we close out? What are you doing now? And then I'm going to tease a little something here at the end.
Well, I am the director of business development and marketing for a company called Sports Surfaces Distributing. Been doing it almost 17 years, and something I didn't want to do, but I do. We sell and market and install some of the best products in the world. One of them is Mondo, which is the Olympic game running track material.
Wow.
And they do weight room, locker rooms. There's a lot of this stuff in NFL and other pro sports franchises, but it's really great stuff. And so I've been doing that for a great long time, focusing mostly in the Southwest, been to Mexico doing jobs, Djibouti, Africa, Okinawa. I mean, just a neat business that I've been in. And technically for about 12 years, I was the only salesperson my company had. So that means I travel. Still somewhat like that, but I have a lady in Arizona that I help hire, and she runs Arizona. But I still am out there hustling. So that's what I do. I'm the director of our music team at our choir, and so I do that. And then I still do motivational speaking and travel for that. Don't do a ton of it, but if there's a request and work out an opportunity to go do it, I do it. I've done corporate work. I've done all type of presentations. I've been in front of thousands of folks, and I just love it. And the reason I don't fear that and I love it is, you know how that whole story started, athletics, because I stuttered when I was younger, and athletics took all that away from me. And so it's a blessing and a joy to be able to communicate, because I feel like I have some good messages for young people.
Yes.
So that's my calling. If someone said, what do you think your calling is? It is to help young people, whether they play sports or not, make the right choices for themselves and to keep hope. I mean, I'm troubled by this mental scenario that's going on, but that's another conversation, because I think we can really, when you talk about giving back, if we're able to share that mentality and that preparation and the emotions and how you really drive yourself for success, and understand we're not always successful every play. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to be short of your goal. You may lose the Super Bowl. But nobody realizes that when I wear my ring and I walk around, they're just enamored that, ooh, NFL guy, you got a ring, you played. And I love to say we won that Super Bowl for 3.5 quarters, but, we didn't win it. It's the fact that we were there, and it's how you treat it. But you can communicate to these kids. So in my motivational speaking that I travel and do, those are some of the messages that I give. And then I train kids here. On Saturdays, we talked about that.
Wonderful.
It's free for them. They just come on Saturday morning, 9:00, Paradise Hills Park. I got all the equipment. I got all the balls, and I just work them out. I've had some really great athletes who've gone on to do some great things. I worked out with a lot of UNM athletes. I still mentor some of those guys. I got kids in Texas that sometimes they come back. I train. And it all started with me training my own boys and getting them ready. And that's where it began.
God, man, that's so. Look, I don't want to get all mushy and cliche, but the world needs this, people. That's what this podcast is about. This is what you're about as a person. I feel like we need to have Mom and Dad Dennard on this show and figure out how they pass along those values to you. It's good stuff, man, and I certainly appreciate it. In a world, let's face it, the last couple months is filled with heartache, and
yeah, unfortunately,
yeah, we got to try to do something different. Well, I'll tell you. I'm going to tease a little something here too. Preston and I have become friends, and we also have some projects in the works. So stay tuned. That's all we're going to say. That's all we're going to say out there, people. But as you might imagine, Preston being well connected and lots of good friends and lots of life experience, and he'll bring along his old white-haired friend Stacy along for the ride. We've got some fun stuff that we are planning together. So there's a teaser. Not going to say much more. But I want to thank you because I feel like we could do part 3, 4, and 5 of this because there's so much more to talk about. But thank you for letting us into your world and your space for a second time, man. As Rams, Bills, or Packer fans, I tend to lean towards those Rams. I'm just honest about it. You might be able to tell. I got your teammates hanging around here. Ex-Rams fans, absolutely love you. By the way, that Super Bowl 79-80.
Yeah.
We love you guys, dude. Like that was all we had up until real recently. Yeah. And that was that Los Angeles team will live forever in Rams fans. I mean, so special, those names. So,
Stacey, if I could say this.
Please.
The greatest satisfaction I have from playing the game, probably others, but this was the main one. When I was projected to be drafted, coming out with all those great receivers that year, and I wasn't drafted, went as a free agent, got cut my rookie year. Rams brought me back 5 weeks later, and I had an 8-year NFL career. Wow. Doesn't always happen, but I'm just very thankful for the Lionel Taylors, the Gene Hueys, my dad, who was my coach, and then my high school coach, Ron Cosner, who I went to a school, the dynamics was totally different. The first black athlete to ever go to this school, the first black athlete to graduate from my high school, and totally different dynamics for a young man growing up, coming from a predominantly all-black community in high school. I transferred over. All those things culminating in having the opportunity to play ball. It's well respected. And I respect the game. I respect those that played. But I do want to say this. Somebody got to do something about Rosie Greer.
Oh, you mentioned this to me, and I apologize. What they're missing the boat on Rosie, right? And we still have Rosie.
We still got Rosie.
Why can't we get this done?
It's the dumbest thing I've ever witnessed.
Terrible.
He's not in the Hall of Fame.
It's terrible.
And I wish, Ram fans, you're watching this, if you somehow can write the Rams or the NFL office and just start a big stir. I've been trying to get the Rams to do it and through circles, communication, but there's no reason that great man should not be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely amazing player. No, I am really glad you brought that up because I'm remiss. It was in my notes to ask you. And Rosie Greer, people, come on now. I mean, there's a couple of Rams. Rosie Greer is an icon of this game.
Oh yeah,
the Fearsome Foursome were icons. He should be in there. Let's go to work on that. I know the other two Rams that drive me nuts, Preston, that aren't in the Hall of Fame. There's actually 3. I'll just go down the list. Rosie Greer, top of the list. Yeah. I can't believe Roman Gabriel isn't in there. Yeah. I can't believe your buddy and your close friend Henry Ellard isn't in there with his numbers when he retired. And I'll throw out another name that's more of a St. Louis Ram, but London Fletcher needs to be. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, Torrey Holt. I forgot about Torrey, who's on the ballot. But Rosie Greer. Yeah, how did we miss that? I mean, Alex Karras is in. All these other defensive tackles. Yeah. Thank you for throwing that in there. Let's see what we can do to make that happen, my friend.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're the fans. We'll scream.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for letting us into your home. And we may be seeing more of this as we move along here. But I got to tell you, as you always do to me, I leave this episode as we close thinking I learned something new, which was that you were the first African-American athlete at that high school. That's a whole show. So guess what, my friend? I'm going to be bugging you again. So we need that in this day and age. That's a huge, that might be one of your greatest accomplishments emotionally, just to get through that. So, okay. Well, thank you to my friend and gridiron icon, Preston Dennard of the Rams. He also played for the Packers and Bills. Sorry, I know you're getting ready to hit me with that, but Preston's a Ram forever for me. Thank you, my friend. And for all of those listening, stay tuned. We've got more coming with Preston Dennard. That's all I'll say. Any parting shots for our listeners?
Hey, let's get Rosie in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, strong close. Let's get Rosie Greer in the Hall of Fame. Thanks again, folks. Like, subscribe on all the major networks and as well as YouTube. And we will see you next week on Gridiron Icon.